Welcome to Like a Bomb, a podcast about powerful women from the past and present.
Not fragile like a flower.
Fragile like a bomb. Hello, and welcome to episode 20 of Like a Bomb. I'm Bailey.
I'm Jiller, Mom.
And yeah, this is Like a Bomb, our podcast. You can reach out to us via likeabombpodcast@gmail.com or via Instagram at likeabombpodcast. Wow, so simple.
And at some point, I will figure out Apple Podcasts. I don't understand
Right,
it.
we need to figure out that. And I can republish our episodes of videos to podcast on YouTube. I was looking at that because I updated our YouTube banner today.
Okay.
I need to get my little light so my face doesn't look so utterly pink and dark at the moment, which it is pink, but let's see. It's been a week and I'm gonna have very busy weekends coming up.
I go into the building to lock the building tomorrow, and I go in for church on Sunday, and I did okay walking today. For the most part, I had two wonderful students on the field trip that kind of just stayed with me because my wobbling. We had to walk on like gravel for a little bit. That made me very nervous. So
Gravel's also not fun to land in or be dragged through.
Yeah, I don't think gravel has a lot of other. You can hear a car coming, so like that. If you have a gravel driveway and your murderer is like drive up on your driveway, you would have advance notice. So that has a positive for gravel.
Yes.
And apparently, some ghost or poltergeists use it as ammunition to get the gravel from your driveway. So at least, I don't really know if that's a positive.
Oh my god.
Did your AOL just tell you you're out of date?
Did you hear the ping?
I did. That's what mine sounded like when my
It was
AOL
not
told
my
me I was out of
AOL
date.
because I don't have one. No, it was Discord. And you know who it is?
I keep hearing it.
I'm going to have to close it. It's Faye.
Oh, wow. Okay.
She asked me about posters. How can I mute it? I'm just gonna not open it anyways. I swear to God, if I get more pings, just it happens. I'm a social person, and apparently the go-to creative person because she asked about things for posters for protests.
Oh, okay.
Ideas to put on.
Okay.
And I said, make a brainworm registry.
I don't even want to know what that is. Nope, don't want to know what that is.
RFK is part of his brain was eaten by a worm. And he's the one who is now currently the director of the Institute of Health and is calling for a list of everyone with autism.
Well, it's not. I saw something today that said he'd never heard of the injuries that cause ADHD, ADD, Tourette's,
Injuries?
like, yes, autism and all this other stuff. And I was like, I mean, Tourette's can be caused by, traumatic brain injury, but I'm not sure that everything else is usually linked to an injury.
Technically anything because you're damaging your brain.
I mean,
Your brain will be rewired differently.
I mean,
and autism is just a different spectrum of how we think and how our brains are wired.
My brain's falling into my skull, so I don't know anything.
On a better note, I noticed a lot of your students have appeared to start watching and learned about the podcast, I guess, because there was a spike of under 17 this past week.
I know the one student that's not my student, who's the sister of a student I had a couple years ago that I went to that thing for the teacher thing last Friday. She obviously didn't know I had a podcast. So it came up when I was talking with her mom and stuff. So I know she said I don't know, she watched or listened or whatever, but she said she did. And I was like, so you know exactly how crazy I am now? I mean,
I'm sure she did.
let's be
The
honest.
only viewers the past week have been a lot of under 17 and then people around your age.
So my students and strangers. Okay. Yeah.
At
I
least
don't
they're
know.
your students. They
Yeah,
know
no,
you a little more now.
they're very well. There's a I don't hold anything back. I mean, every one of them knows my brain's falling out of my skull. So, but they were really sweet today because they knew that like it's been a rough week. I took a day and a half off so far this week because my brain hurts and I'm wobbly and I feel like I'm in a bouncy house because the walls and the floor move. But they were very sweet. And it was funny, like when they would realize they were off doing something else and I'd hear them go, but I'm supposed to be next to Miss Gregory. I'm like, it's fine. So they were very sweet. That made my day. But
That's
like,
sweet.
yeah.
The best part of my day was coming home from work.
I mean, I haven't been home that long. I had to go get shots.
Oh.
Not
Well,
the
you can
good
see in
kind.
my corner my gift for Lucas
I
there.
don't think
And, oh no, your tattoos, have they been stabbed or is it in between your
they
tattoos?
do a good
I
job
saw
of
the
usually
band-aid a bit.
not, but
Here's Mister.
I don't think I have any reactions.
Do you have any on your right arm?
Yeah, I
It's
have
just
this
naked.
I have this one that I have with your sister,
Okay.
and then I have
The quote.
knowledge itself is power.
I
And
have
yeah.
only the one tattoo with you on my left arm. I have the opposite. It's all on my right arm.
Well, we're also both different dominant hands.
Yes.
Maybe that's it. Well,
Partially.
I need to get this half sleeve designed, but I also have no money, so
I have a gift card voucher for a tattoo place that I like that
I
my partner got me for Christmas.
yes, I remember that part of the Christmas. The Christmas.
Come here and you may get one.
I need to figure out how to get these Legos to you. I don't know.
Yes.
Oh, I'd like to apologize for all the yawning that's about to happen. I have
Dress.
a lot of pain meds that are prescribed to me that I stopped taking probably 3 days ago now. All of them, except for my normal ones that I was taking before all this happened. But I've kind of tried to take closer to my max of my normal stuff, so it doesn't make me go to sleep. It just makes me yawn, which is inconvenient and makes my R's water, my eyes.
Better your eyes than your arse.
Words, English, I don't know. They're hard. Don't know it. I don't know. You got a story to tell me?
Yeah. So I had two items because one is not really a person, kind of like we've been doing topics
Yeah.
of how it affects women or women and this whatnot. So I was between two, and I went. Both are very relevant, but one is more specifically relevant to this week. So you can guess it. We've already talked about it. I'm going to talk about autism, but specifically autism in women, and how a brief overlook at how it can be different, how it's been perceived. But so maybe I can. So in
I
the
have.
past, whoa,
Sorry,
you
I was
good?
gonna say I have Temple Grandeur on my list of people to do. Who is? Yeah. Sorry. Go.
um. So now we're talking to yawn. I'm gonna yawn. Anyways, in the past, it was assumed that autistic people were overwhelmingly men and boys, and only very rarely women and girls. Blatantly, this is wrong. There are many women, girls, non-binary people on the autism spectrum. Although we now know much more about the experiences of autistic women and girls, society's understanding of autism has been limited by outdated stereotypes and incorrect assumptions. Although autism research and professional practice are slowly catching up to the realities of life for autistic women and girls, many barriers to diagnose and support remain. Uh, so the big question is, does autism present differently in women and girls? There's a little bit on that. I ran out of water. And so it is important that autistic women and girls receive a diagnosis, which is very important to clear doctor saying, I mean, you know what a diagnosis is. Doctor says you have it. Um, but it can help a lot because it's a solid medical answer that says for sure, yes, you are not neurotypical, you are neurodivergent, and the younger you are, or at any age, it can help you cope with life going forward. It can help understand a lot of things in your past and just make life overall a lot better understanding. But there comes a lot of stigma with a diagnosis that has been fading away these past few decades, more and more so these past few years since the pandemic, when a lot more people were getting diagnosed and realizing that they're neurodivergent. The problem is there's still a lot of like legal stigma where you have difficulty getting a job or going to move to different places because you have an autism diagnosis. Uh, so, however, because of the stereotyped ideas about what autism looks like and who can be autistic, many autistic women and girls struggle to get a diagnosis. And receiving a diagnosis later in life and are often misdiagnosed with conditions other than autism. It's most oftenly misdiagnosed as bipolar disorder than autism. Autism characteristics in women and girls may differ from those of other autistic people. We're all different, it's a spectrum. We may seem to have fewer social difficulties because girls are known to be better at masking. And that could come from a lot of society's views, just more of girls are seen as the more social. They have to. It's commonly the eldest daughter has to be the more like a second parent for a lot of families. So they're put into a more adult-like role and have to quickly overcome and thus mask and can't be as childish. Uh, so that can result in a lot of anxiety and overwhelmingness. At school, autistic girls may be more likely to be part of a friendship group, and this could be a reason that teachers don't notice their differences because, as I'll get on later with the DSM 5, the most recent, I don't remember what DSM stands for, but the most recent psychological testing book that says some of the factors is you're not as social, like it's hard to be social. That's a key part of having ASD, the autism spectrum disorder. Uh, but regardless of this, they also may be missed if there are academic achievement math difficulties they're facing in other areas. So they can be great in school, but teachers aren't going to know, and especially if they have a couple of friends, so they seem pretty social and adept in class. And some of the characteristics of autism are having repetitive behaviors and highly focused interests. Many of us know the stereotypical trains or space as the hyper focus of boys with autism, but uh, it's not the case. Women and girls have these behaviors and interests, and it may be similar to those of non autistic women and girls, such as twirling hair and reading books, or horses, or cats, or all the other stereotypically girly things. Uh, and they just have a greater intensity or focus than a typical child or woman their age, possibly. And with this, doctors and healthcare professionals can lack knowledge about how autism may present differently in women and girls. This means they may be misdiagnosed with different mental health issues, as we mentioned, but that because some of the symptoms that are co-occurring in those other conditions, because there's a lot of overlap, and some of the tools to test for autism are better at identifying characteristics that are more common in autistic men and boys. So the process may not be as sensitive to the more dominant traits in women and girls. So that also makes a massive issue. So there's a few things about, let's see, such as the question of why are more men diagnosed as autistic? Um,
Well, I can
and so,
say
hmm,
with my students, there is more girls that are diagnosed in the years that I've been teaching. It used to be mainly males, and you know, not when I
mm-hmm.
was growing up, but we're talking now.
Yeah, currently there's some theories, but it's more clear that it's just missed or misdiagnosed with women and girls. And because it was previously thought that there were many more men than women, but estimates the ratio to have gotten closer and closer over time. Wow, it's almost like it's non-gender specific. Um, yeah, and some of the theories are just also simply that women and girls are more likely to mask or camouflage their differences, and then the assessments are less sensitive to the traits that are commonly found in women and girls. But the reason, besides the pandemic being an assistant, that a lot more people are being diagnosed with autism. This is actual science and not me spitting stuff off the top of my head. Is that there has been more and more testing that has been more and more sensitive. I'm getting data from autistic sites. Like this is the autism.org .uk. This is a UK organization website that I found. And then there's the CDC that has the DSM, which is the diagnostic criteria um, for psychiatric disorders and things. It's the Diagnostics and Statistics Manual, and it's the fifth, thus five. They get more and more sensitive, they change. And more people get tested. So the more people that get tested and the more sensitive the test, the more obvious more people are on the spectrum. There is no epidemic of autism. I'd like to stab him in the brain in his brain worm. To someone that is not qualified in any regard and has no understanding and thinking that vaccines cause autism, going and trying to now make a list of us, I'm sure he doesn't even know what the DSM 5 is.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah.
But, so,
I mean, there is actual research, faulted research, that if you go and actually look at the research, it's faulty. Some doctors were actually sued when they came out with
yes.
research that said,
So, the so called research that there was a connection was by a doctor that was paid to create something that would help some legal case with there being a connection. I do not know the exacts. I've listened to it recently. And so he made a very, very wrong document that was a medical document. It was seen as I did this test. And it blew up. And people didn't have enough time to peer review it, which is what you should do before things get published. And it was later debunked, as you said, but damage is already done.
yeah, if you just look through a tiny little pigeonhole, you can find something to prove whatever you want. But then if you actually
Exactly. If
look at the
you keep
world,
yourself closed minded, anything can be true.
yeah.
But that's because you're closed minded and using opinions, not facts and the actual truth as one should. And I'm going to go through the diagnostic criteria for ASD, Autism Spectrum Disorder. So there are 5 key things that, let's see. Okay, no, there's not just 5 key things. They break down more. Some of them do. Cool. So, how someone meets the criteria for ASD through the DSM 5, the most recent psychiatric manual, is A, persistent deficits in social communication and social interaction across multiple contexts, as manifested by the following currently or by history: deficits in social emotional reciprocal, ranging, for example, from abnormal social approach and failure of the normal back and forth conversation to reduce sharing of interest, emotions, or affect, to failure to initiate or respond to social interactions. 2. Deficits in nonverbal communication behaviors used for social interaction, ranging, for example, from poorly integrated verbal and nonverbal communication to abnormalities in eye contact and body language, or deficits in understanding and use of gestures, or a total lack of facial expressions and nonverbal communication. 3. Deficits in developing, maintaining, and understanding relationships, ranging, for example, from difficulties adjusting behavior to suit various social contexts, to difficulties in sharing imaginative play or in making friends, to absence of interest in peers. And then there is different severity levels, and I will go back onto those later. There's 1, 2, and 3. So, and then B, to be one of the criteria to meet is to be diagnosed, is restricted repetitive patterns of behavior, interests, or activities, as manifested by at least 2 of the following, current or by history. So you have to meet all 3 of the social, and then 2 of the 4 listed here on this B of your repetitiveness. So number 1 is stereotyped or repetitive motor movements, use of objects or speech, such as fidgeting, as you may possibly ever notice that I do with my necklace, which is also a symptom in other cases with ADHD, or they may be repeating I don't know how to say the same word over and over again. Number 2 is insistence on sameness, inflexible adherence to routines or ritualized patterns of verbal or nonverbal behavior. 3. Highly restricted, fixated interests that are abnormal in intensity or focused, those stereotypical hyperfocused, like trains or space that's associated with boys. And then 4, there is hyper or hypo activity to sensory input or unusual interest in sensory aspects of the environment. So there could be a very hyperactive, the overwhelmed to stereotypically like a noise, or a hyperactivity where they very much are indifferent to something such as pain or temperature. And so if you have any 2 of those 4, you also fulfill that requirement. The other 3 requirements do not have bullet notes to them. C, symptoms must be present in the early developmental period. D, symptoms cause clinically significant impairment in social, occupational, other important areas of current functioning. E, these disturbances are not better explained by intellectual disability or global developmental delay. Intellectual disability and autism ASD frequently co-occur to make comorbid diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder and intellectual disability. Social communication should be below that expected for general developmental level. And so that is the overview and the details specifically of the criteria that you need to meet to be diagnosed with ASD or autism spectrum disorder. And some of the levels that I talked about, there's 1, 2, and 3. Level 1 is what used to be known as Asperger's, or as like high functioning, which again, you can't see it if you're listening on Spotify, but it's air quotes around high functioning. They require very little support. Level 2 requires substantial support, and level 3 requires very substantial support. So just intensity gets stronger and stronger with more and more support the higher the number. And so back to the female aspect to this, a couple of awareness to keep in mind that's more prominent in women, it's not exclusive to women, uh, is that roughly 80% of autistic women and girls remain undiagnosed by the age of 18. Uh, they are more prone to experiencing internalizing disorders like anxiety, depression, eating disorders, and self harm. One study found the actual ratio to be 4 autistic females for every 3 autistic males, challenging the commonly cited 1 to 4 statistic. We are at a higher vulnerability to victimization. A study found that 9 out of 10 autistic women and girls had experienced victimization. They're more likely to have special interests which culturally blend in, as we mentioned before, the books or, anything else more normal that's okay socially, I guess, with their experience of diving into it. And then autistic women and girls are less likely to present with classical social communication differences and more likely to mask their social communication differences. So that is my overall dive into autism in women. And if that sounds like it resonates with you, I would not recommend a diagnosis at the moment in the US, but I would recommend plenty of sites to go look at. There's plenty of YouTubers that have good information and plenty of sites. The only one I can tell you right now is don't go to Autism Speaks, because I believe that's the one with the puzzle. Autism in women. Yeah, don't go to Autism Speaks. So the rest is maybe good. I don't know. I didn't find specific sources, but that's especially important with the whole US is being a butt right now.
Yeah, I'm also not sure how an injury, but I mean, injury causes brain stuff, which can cause disorders, but most
You
of
already
the disorders.
have them and you're predisposed to them. It just kind of flipped that switch.
Yeah.
Like
Or
my dad denying that he's bipolar.
don't even.
He had that switch happen. It doesn't go away.
No, it doesn't. He doesn't even go by his name anymore, so I don't know.
He's never gone by his name.
No, but
It's him. He is an oddball.
yeah. Yeah, I do feel like that we're in a time, well, we're around a time where there are more um, people more willing to accept that they need to maybe check in and see how their system works, because
Mm-hmm.
their system may not work like everybody else. And just because it doesn't work like everybody else doesn't mean it's wrong or broken or bad. It just means you got to figure out how your system works. I mean,
Yeah, there's 8 billion people on the planet.
yeah,
We can't all be the same, and
no,
we all shouldn't.
no. Like, I mean, you and your sister are both very, very different. You both have to do things differently, and you have to figure out how y'all do things differently. Like, that was something that I had to figure out with you guys.
Wait, you don't miss the brief period where she wanted to do everything and to be just like me, and we enjoyed trying to be twins with the same clothes?
No, I just think about how hard she worked when she realized when she finally like accepted she doesn't think like everybody else,
Mm-hmm.
and she needed to do things that were a little different. And she would steal my computer in like first grade to go make her spelling list so that she was doing something that was helping her. So, and she hasn't texted me back. I need her email address if she wants these PDFs. So,
She
but
hasn't snapped me or anything recently, so I don't know.
it's Friday. She's probably at work.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I hope she's making money. Um, but yes, if you want to know how your system works, go talk to somebody who may know more about how the inner workings of our bodies and our brains work. Like, I don't know how our brains work. I
Yeah.
I haven't.
There's
Eh.
yeah. lots of online, but be careful. Not every state do they have like the ability or like the reach to properly have online therapists or psychiatrists. Which I don't know if you how well,
Um,
or if you have insurance, they may not take insurance. You know,
just do your homework. Um,
but there's a lot of easy ways to do it virtually if you can't leave the house.
yeah, because that's also a mental illness. It's called agoraphobic. It's okay. I'm there.
Or other things like you're debilitating enough with uh, other sensory issues with autism or with the world being how it is as OCD or other
Oh,
social
1,000 reasons.
things.
Yep. Okay. And I apologize if you heard Birdie purring. He is in my lap and was
I cannot
very.
hear him. I want to see the
He's
baby.
not purring anymore. I'm trying to think if
Well,
I
don't
can.
worry about moving your camera.
Yeah,
I
I'm
can
not
see the
sure.
baby after.
Eh,
I
I think she has
see feet.
paws. You see
I
paws.
see feet.
And
How
oh, sorry,
scandalous. Feet
sorry,
pics.
sorry, bud. Sorry, sorry. Yeah, they're not happy that I haven't been home very long and they aren't getting any
Well,
attention.
Brody's getting attention. Fenn's
Yeah,
probably not as happy.
who knows where Finn is? There's no absolutely no telling.
Is he playing with his twist ties?
We have to before I go night night. Every night I have to play catch with him with his twist ties. And yes, I
He's so
know
needy.
he's a cat, but he has these twist ties he absolutely loves, and they're not just like little metal ones. They're safe, and he likes to jump up and catch them like with his paws, sometimes his mouth, and we play catch. And that's what we do before I go to night night. If we haven't done it already, probably. Okay. I I always have like these plans of people or things I'm gonna do, and then when I have to sit down and do the notes, I change my mind 20,000 times. Um, and I was just like, it's been a rough week. So I was like, oh, I just want something happy. I was like, oh, I wonder what's funny stereotypes. I mean, not that they're funny, but funny stereotypes for women I can come up with and then find out their origins. That would be just like, what? What were people thinking? I, there are so many actual like scholarly papers written about stereotypes of women and things, and I'm like, wow, that's way more work than I thought that was going to be. So that'll come at one point, but wow, there's like actual like real scientists that have spent time on this. I mean, I want to know what kind of grant money they're getting for that, because
I mean, how old are they?
uh some of them are not that old at all.
Hmm.
Yeah. um and then like the consequences of what people who are being identified as those stereotypes. A lot of them going on. I was like, okay, well that's way more than I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, ooh, let's just look up fun facts about women. By the way, there are none out there. Um, there was one list, and they weren't really all that fun. Um, Out of the 10, I found one that I thought was interesting, so I went with that. Uh,
Okay.
so I was trying to find for something fun, but right now the world's just not fun, no matter how hard you try and look for fun. Um,
There's some fun. Not
yeah,
much.
there
At
is.
least not in the moment. It doesn't feel
No.
like there is.
So it was like, there's a fun fact list for like everything if you Google it.
Hmm.
Again, Google is not the only search engine. I get that. But
But also don't use the stupid Google AI. It's dumb.
I don't know. That thing with NC State this summer. I think I'm doing it for 4 days instead of 3 days now, because I'm like a teacher leader. I don't know why I'm a leader. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's all about AI.
No.
It has its usefulness for certain things. It'll make my life easier if I just say, hey, give me a data set for a positive association scatter plot.
I hate generative
I don't
AI.
have to Google that. It's there. It gives it to me. Um,
But it steals people's work without their consent and it generates and just
yes, I
ah
agree. And that is, I will say, more times than not, it gives you at least the link to reference. So that's good.
Okay, but not
People aren't.
ChatGPT.
It does it does if you ask for it. And most of them are not
If you
necessary.
ask for it.
And they're not always good links. Sometimes they're broken links or not right links. But that's why you got
Exactly.
to do your
It's
homework,
still
guys.
stealing people's work.
Yeah. So it's, anyhow, I don't know what kind of, it could be AI, like I'm building a robot to take over the world. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to have me. And this is NC State. We don't know what they're going to have me do. They can make me do like a gardening gnome robot.
Airplane competition? Like
I
I did
don't,
when I did summer camp there?
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'd love somebody to come clean the floorboards. I want that robot.
So you would just want a Roomba.
Is it going to clean the floorboards though? Because not the floor, like the floorboards. Because I can't,
You can
like,
get mopping ones probably.
my head goes down. It hurts.
Oh yeah, no.
So, yeah.
Teach the boys how to do it.
If only they would be. Whew.
$1 million cats.
I have a picture I need to send you and your sister of 3 cats eating on 3 different bowls on the porch this evening. Okay. Well, so I went and looked at fun facts, and there were not fun facts because apparently there is not a fun fact list for women. And if you find one, please share it with me because I looked pretty hard, like lazy hard, but I feel like I went through quite a few different. Yeah. So apparently, long times ago, almost 100 years ago, not almost 100. Yes, almost 100 years ago. Oh my goodness gracious.
You feel old?
Whew. Wow. So Eleanor Roosevelt had press conferences. So in case you have lived under a rock or never took like 8th grade social studies, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was a president of the United States who actually was elected 4 times.
FDR is the only one who will ever have been more than twice.
I found some loopholes when I was just doing this article that, yeah.
Don't say those.
Anyhow, Eleanor
Amendment
Roosevelt
22
was the first lady from 1933 to 1945 when her husband, so like I said, FDR, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Eleanor Roosevelt, I don't know, call him whatever you want, until he died in office. So he was elected for 4 terms, but he died in office and didn't finish all 4 terms. FDR won 4 elections. That led to the ratification of the 22nd Amendment, limiting all future presidents to only 2 elected terms. In that sentence alone, there's loopholes.
Shush. No loopholes. There's a hat on his website that says Trump 2028. This man's in his late 70s.
Yeah, I'm not even 50 yet, and I'm like going, that seems a long way. Anyhow, so this is about special press conferences that the First Lady actually held for only women reporters.
Woo.
Only women reporters. So you can actually find the transcripts for 87 of the 348 women-only press conferences. And if you Google the press conference of Eleanor Roosevelt, you can find actual transcripts, which is kind of cool when you think about it. So the very first one was March 6th, 1933. She held the first ever First Lady press conference because First Ladies did not hold press conferences before this.
No.
They didn't speak publicly about anything. They let their husbands do the speaking. They were the presidents. The women took a very in the shadows role.
But I mean, you also had Alice Roosevelt.
Yeah.
She is on my list.
Yeah.
The Roosevelts were a much more forward pro-women family, simply put, it sounds like.
They were. This not only was the first press conference done by a First Lady, it was the first press conference for woman-only reporters. Only women. Nobody else was there. First Ladies did not speak openly to press. Like, they just didn't. You they didn't have their own stance. And it's like, when you think about my life, like just going back to Nancy Reagan, Tipper Gore messed some stuff up, even though she wasn't the president's wife. She was just, vice president's wife. She was, anyhow. Go look up why you have parental warnings on everything. Uh,
What?
yeah. So, yeah, and she was married to a Democrat. It was a very weird thing.
I'm
But
concerned now.
let's think. Nancy Reagan, Hillary Clinton, Michelle Obama. Like, think about all the stuff that they have done. This is when it started. Like, this lady said, "Hey, I'm going to talk." And the first one, there was 30 to 35 reporters that attended. And at the time, really weren't a lot of female reporters out there, but companies had to go out and make sure they had female reporters so that they weren't losing out on any stories that were happening at these conferences, and then lose access to that information. So it added women to the country's and the world's political conversation. She would bring guests, like including foreign dignitaries, and it just created a more public role for the first lady to be able to actually do things outside of what her husband was doing and the rest of the country was doing. Like, they had their
Yeah.
own initiatives and their own things. So the first topic started off like, she said, "I'm not going to talk politics with you. Like, I'm banning politics from these press conferences. Let's just talk about my daily schedule and the White House decor and how to make a wonderful dinner or breakfast or lunch when we're looking at Depression era world." And then she said, "I would really like this to be for special interest for U.S. women, like topics that they value and they need."
Mm-hmm.
Talked about like Hitler's threat to Europe and the world. Of course, the New Deal. This is FDR, by the
I
way.
mean, yeah, FDR is known for the New
Yeah.
Deal.
So, she talked about that.
What, his
Welfare.
big stick policy? It was him, right?
Yeah.
Or is
Yeah.
it Theodore Roosevelt?
I think it was Franklin. I don't
It
know.
was one of them.
I don't remember
They're
eighth
not
grade
related
history.
either.
I don't remember eighth grade history because that was like 40 years ago.
You hang around 8th grade history teachers.
I do, but I don't get all the nitty gritties. I get some of it. Um, and so basically, it started off just talking about, what was considered womanly things that you were acceptably allowed to speak about. Your handkerchief, best ironing practices, and it turned into like an actual political conversation where women were being able to have voices and being able to say things publicly and be the ones who write it and, put it out there. So there's no like spinning it. And if you go back and look at newspapers from back in the day, there was a lot of spin and a lot of flowery words that just were not even true.
I bet,
Um,
and to interrupt you, it was Theodore Roosevelt.
mm,
Big stick diplomacy.
um, the final press conference happened April 12th at 1945. In 1945, and it was only a few hours before her husband died.
Oh,
Because he died while in office.
yeah.
Following his death, the President Truman, who was his successor, appointed Eleanor to be the U.S. rep for the first UN meeting in the January 1st, 1946.
Oh.
So if she had never spoken, she would have never been that. Like, she was just
Yeah.
in the
They
shadows.
don't respect women's spaces in
But
a man's world of
she
politics.
made her place and she let other women, she made a point to make it so other women were in the forefront, part of the conversation,
Hmm.
excluded males from that particular conversation.
And got women into press like many
Mm-hmm.
women wanted to be and
Yeah.
were barred from.
Yep. But because it was mainly male dominated field, if you're saying you need women, then you have to have women.
Hmm. Nice, genius way of just like,
Yep. So it's a short little tidbit, and I'm sure there's more things that she did that, I mean, it doesn't mean we will not touch on her at some point, but I thought it was like just a cool, happy thing when there's not a lot of happy in the world.
Yeah, women only press conferences.
Yes. So I thought that was nice. It made me happy. And if you find a women's cool things, fun facts list, please share it with us because,
We got an email.
yes, I was like, we
Like a
got an email.
bomb podcast at Gmail. And I don't accept DMs, but Instagram, you can comment on a post. Fun fact, because I need to post more on the Instagram.
I
And we
need
do actually have a TikTok.
to do
I believe
things.
it's also Like a Bomb podcast.
Probably, but I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, happy world.
Try.
Make the best of every day and go do something extraordinary.